So explain to us what libertarian is.
I hear that all the time. Let me tell you what libertarian is. Libertarian is someone who says you can be as liberal or as conservative as you want to be. Just don't force others to be like you.
Got it.
That's what we are all about. We are all about long-term solutions, not short-term solutions. We're all about changing culture, not just changing law. Law, we have to remember something. At the end of almost every single law is a guy or a gal with a gun who will put you in a cage. And if you don't want to go in that cage, he or she is going to kill you. That means you only use law when it really matters, not just because I'm angry, not because I don't like you, not because you should do some activity I think you shouldn't do or whatever the case may be. It's only for important things like life and liberty and property and things like that. That's when you use violence. That's when you use force. That's what libertarians are all about. Welcome to Libertarians Drinking Coffee Live. The brand is strong. We are still drinking coffee here. It's 3 p.m. on the East Coast, which means it's coffee time, I guess. I've just made that up, and that means it is. So, guys, look, I'm out here trying to get people to understand that it does matter. There are libertarians running across the country. Absolutely, we care about our presidential candidate, Jo Jorgensen. We love her. We hope she wins, and we want to support her. And we also want to support all the local people who are running, who are trying to make impact in the local communities. This has to be not a blue wave, but a gold rush. That's what it's got to be, right. A gold rush, and we can do that. So to make that happen, guys, I need you to like, comment, and share. Let people know this is happening. Let people know we are real. Let people know they have a choice this year and for the years to come. Please, it's important. Do that right now. Like, comment, share. Get those algorithms going. I am very lucky today. I have somebody who is someone who's running for the first time, hardcore, making it happen, from Kentucky, Amanda Billings. How are you?
Hi, thank you. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very happy to have you here today. Look, you're someone who hasn't run before. This isn't like your thing. And
right.
You decided that you're going to do this. I got to ask, why are you doing it? And why, of all things, why state senate?
Well, I have been a libertarian since 2012. I changed my party registration back then, and I've just followed politics very closely since then. And it's been kind of one of those things where I talk about it quite a bit with my friends and at work, and I've been very vocal about it, and people have kind of been like, oh, maybe you should think about running someday.
Oh,
and
so you were talking at work about politics. You're breaking the rules.
Yeah, I know you're not supposed to, but everybody talks about politics. It's unavoidable, I feel like, and it's important. I feel we should be talking about politics.
100%, yes. I'm glad you break that norm, because how in the world are we going to be able to have good conversations about policy, about issues, about our lives, if we can't touch those important pieces? Absolutely true. I'm glad you're doing it. Excellent.
Right. So this year I was following my local candidacies in my local area. We have a Republican senator who is part of the Judiciary Committee, and he sat on the medical marijuana bill that was put on his desk, basically. And I kind of followed that, and I really was supporting that. And then when I found out that it wasn't going anywhere, I was really disappointed. And then our Libertarian Party of Kentucky contacted me and said, hey, what do you know about Westerfield? And I said, well, I know that I don't care for him very much because he doesn't seem to be doing a very good job here as far as listening to his people. And they said, well, we need somebody to run against him. And your name came up in quite a few places.
I like that.
I just kind of jumped in with both feet because I feel like it's a really important issue amongst a bunch of other issues. And if I can make a difference, then that's what it's all about. It's just about bringing awareness to the party and giving people that other option on the ballot. So.
I love that so much. And I think the best part about what you're telling me is I think you find that one party rule is hard no matter what, right? You live in a red state, I live in a blue state. But in my blue state, it's one party rule. And people who don't like the person, we have a problem, right? Because it's one party rule. You have a similar
Right.
problem, but it's a red party, but it's a similar problem that we can't do anything. Now, that means you're in a two-person race because of this, right? It's just you
Right.
and the Republican, right?
Right. We don't have a Democratic challenger in my race, so it's me and him.
Guys, I cannot stress this so many times when you see me out here hooping and hollering about you supporting people. It's because when we have two-person races, think of the impact. By default, Amanda gets all the I hate that guy votes, right? But while that's great, and you might think, well, that's not good enough, at least now they're going to hear her because they don't like the other guy. So now they're open to hearing what she has to say. So we have to help her say it. And that means going to that Facebook page right there, Billings for KY Senate 3 and Facebook. Head on over there and see what she's about. And if you can support her, please support her. If you're in Kentucky, my God, go support her, right? Make sure you're there, not just for money. I hope you can give her money. That would be amazing if you're there. She has to get door hangers. She's got to get signs. She's got to get Facebook ads. But even if you can't, no worries. She needs bodies. She needs people to do sign waves, people to show up at events, people to call up press, people who literally can be her social media warriors. All those things are important. So I love that. So you had a two-person race, right? But there's something else that's special about your state. You're basically a red state with a blue governor.
Yeah.
Right. That's not that common. That happens sometimes in Massachusetts. You get like a very blue state with a red governor. But this is special. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so we had a Republican governor, and then all of a sudden now we've got a Democratic governor, which is really surprising. I think people are just tired of the status quo, and so they're looking for that alternative. And unfortunately, people are still mired in this idea of, oh, if it's not Republican, it's got to be Democrat. If it's not Democrat, it's got to be Republican. Oh, I'm not happy with the Republican, so let's put a Democrat in. Same old song and dance every election season.
So you're saying Kentucky, in this case, really wasn't that they are going more blue. It was that they just didn't like the Republican, and they thought that was the only option.
Yeah, I think so. And that's something that I personally hope to change and make a little difference on, is that's why I'm running, is that I feel that there needs to be that other option on the ballot. We need to go outside of the two old parties. We need to start looking at the other alternatives. And, I, of course, I'm 100% behind the Libertarian Party, but there are other parties out there as well. So people just need to realize that they do have more options, and that they need to start, looking at maybe other options than the two old parties.
100%. So tell me, I'm sure there's a lot of things that you would want to talk about, but give me a couple of issues that really matter in your area, right? Is your area more rural? Is it more urban? Is it suburban? What's important in your area?
So it is very rural. The things that I feel are very important right here in this area, for one, is veteran support. I live 4 minutes from Fort Campbell, Kentucky. It is a huge military/veteran based area, and I feel that there needs to be a lot more done as far as reforming healthcare for veterans and giving them more options. And with that ties in with the medical marijuana community, or I like to call it the medical cannabis community. I don't like the word marijuana at all.
I use cannabis too. Yes.
So that's a big issue, and that is something that I hope to change. That we don't have any cannabis laws in Kentucky right now, and it's just ridiculous. We're just in this archaic state of just, it's illegal, you can't have it. If you're caught with it, it's a fine and probably jail time. And there's so many people who could be benefiting from medical cannabis, and it's just not allowed. And I just don't understand why. We have this huge constituency that could benefit from it.
Do you link vets and cannabis as one issue, or for you, are they two separate issues?
Oh, no, they're definitely not separate. There are lots of things surrounding it that pulls the two together. So, I'm of the mind that anything that could help our veterans get off of big pharmaceutical drugs is definitely something that needs to be looked at. I know so many veterans who are pushed onto these pharmaceutical drugs that may or may not help them. You know, I have a story about a veteran who came back from a deployment and was struggling really badly, and they put him on these pharmaceuticals, and it didn't work for him. He ended up killing himself. And it just, that touches my heart every day. I think about that,
Absolutely.
you know, there's a better way out there that is not being afforded to them.
So let me go to, I mean, generally speaking, when people think about vets, they tend to think federal, but you're thinking state. So tell me,
Right.
what do you think? What do you think the state can do, even though you're going to have, obviously you're going to have some federal, you know, obstacles to get over, right? The VA
Right.
is going to be one of them, etc. All those things. How do you think at a state level you can do something for the veteran community?
Well, obviously the legislation has to change, and that comes from the state level on up. So, you know, I feel like if more states get on board with helping their veterans, then it's going to push the VA to have to change and to have to go, gee, you know, even in medical states right now, veterans are not allowed cannabis. Even, you know, they're not prescribed it. If they're involved in it, then they possibly lose their VA benefits, and that's just terrible. And it needs to change, and it needs to start at the state level.
Got it. So you're basically doing a real grassroots. You're saying, because I can't get the change at the top, I'm going to make it happen at the bottom and force the people at the top to take action.
Right, right.
Got it. Oh, I love that idea. I think it's amazing. I think well, if you look at, you know, the VA, there's a lot of problems with the VA, but you also find some gems, right? There are some gems in the VA, but most of them are doing what you're talking about. They're fighting against the system to be effective, right? And if they had some local support, I mean, they'd probably do even better, right? If they had some local support that would say, look, let's make this thing work, the others would have to change. I love that idea. So when it comes to cannabis, do you have a way that you want to deal with cannabis? When I ran in New York, right, I talked about the idea of, you know, regulate it like a plant. In my case, I did onions, right? Because I happen to be in Western New York, and we grow onions in Western New York. So that's why I said that. But are you a legalize? Are you decriminalize? Are you you know, with restrictions? Are you like something else? Where is your head when it comes to cannabis in Kentucky?
So I am 100% for legalizing it, regulating it, like at the very least, like alcohol. I don't believe, I know there's kind of this idea of medical versus recreational, but I'm of the mind that there really is no such thing as recreational use. I think it's all medical. I think that, you know, people say, oh, they just want to get high. Well, why? Why are they getting high? Is there an anxiety issue? Can they not sleep well at night? Is there something else going on that's allowing them to feel better? I mean, it's all medical in my mind. So I feel like at the very least, right, self-medicating, there you go. Self-medicating is recreational. And so I just feel that, you know, that needs to all go away. And we need to look at it as, you know, give adults the option to put in their bodies whatever they choose, whether it's coffee, whether it's alcohol, whether it's cannabis, whether it's nicotine. It all needs to be treated the same way and give everybody that option.
So,
and then as far as medically concerned goes, I mean, nobody can deny that there's medical benefits. So then that's where we need to put into place, you know, children that need that medicine. Okay, let doctors take care of that. Let that be a choice between their families and their doctors as a patient, and open up that avenue as well.
So do you think, I know you brought up alcohol, and my assumption is that's because you think that's what your state might accept.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. And I know there are a lot of libertarians who get angry and go, that's it, decriminalize everything, no regulation, nothing. And I get where they're coming from, but we have to realize where our state is. My state's similar to yours. There's no recreational marijuana in my state. I can't get my governor, who's a Democrat, to come up with a way of doing it. So I was like, regulate it like, at least like a plant, something. Give me something. Move to an area where I stop putting people in jail. But you have a bigger issue because if we understand, you have a large veteran community. You said you're right near which base are you near?
Fort Campbell, Kentucky.
Fort Campbell. Fort Campbell, it's an Army base.
Yes.
And when people get out, are a lot of veterans staying in the area, retiring, or are they leaving?
Definitely.
So you have a veteran base.
Yes, yes, there
I mean,
are a
voter
lot of
base, voter
veterans
base.
here. A lot of veterans stay here and don't move back to their original states. And that's why I'm here. I'm actually from New York. Um, we moved here when my then husband enlisted in the army, and we stayed
Ah,
here because New York is so expensive and
I
so heavily
know.
taxed. I know you know.
Oh my God, I know. Absolutely, I know. Yes, it's and I live in the belly of the beast. I live in New York City.
Yeah.
Yes, I totally get it. I where so by the way, just curiously, where were you raised in New York?
Livingston County, so very rural Western New York, Finger
Yep.
Lakes region, farming and agriculture, just very quiet, small towns. Yeah, about
So what
45 minutes south of Rochester.
so it wasn't crazy for you to move out to Kentucky. That wasn't crazy.
No, no, it
Yeah.
was actually busier here than where I came from.
That's yes, I know the area. As you know, I actually crossed New York State multiple times. I've touched every single county of New York State. I know it very well. So excellent. So that's good that you have that veteran community. I love that. So with that being one piece, or I love that the cannabis piece. I love that. Is there another issue on top of that that is at the top of your list?
School choice is very big with me.
Mm,
I'm very pro homeschooling and very pro giving parents and students and teachers the ability to educate the way that they see fit for their children.
mm-hmm.
I Our education system is a mess, especially here in Western Kentucky. I'm finding schools that are in disrepair, and I'm hearing excuses of, oh, well, the budget just isn't there to cover repairs for schools.
Mm,
The high school that my children go to is in disrepair, and I've heard, oh, well, there's just not the budget for it. Well, why not? Why is this not a priority? Why am I sending my kids to a school where there's mold dripping from the ceiling?
right.
And there's just not a whole lot of other options. When my children were younger, I actually pulled them out of public school and homeschooled them for 5, almost 6 years, because I didn't have a whole lot of other choices. It was either public school or very expensive private Christian school or homeschool.
Yep.
And I just feel like, especially in this part of the state, that there needs to be more options and there needs to be more support for more options. There needs to be charter schools and magnet schools and any kind of schooling you could think of. And that just doesn't seem to be happening in this part of the state. And then, of course, the budget issues on top of it. It's just something needs to
Mm.
change with that. So
I like that. So your answer is to provide more choice, which you think will make everything better without having to increase the budget.
right, right.
I love
The
that.
budget needs to be audited, in my opinion. I don't
Sure.
know what they're doing, but they need to do something to fix it.
No, I
because it's
love it.
not
You're not saying what every other politician says, which is throw more money at the problem.
No.
You're actually saying provide more choice so that we'll get better options and then audit the budget so we can be more effective with the money we have versus raising more taxes. I
Right.
love the answer. I love that. Well, I got to go back to the cannabis issue. Someone asked, what do you think about using hemp to promote it?
Certainly, hemp is very big here in Western Kentucky. There are a couple places that are, growing hemp and they have hemp businesses. They have been put through the ringer to get there,
Mm-hmm.
and they still have a lot of regulations that they're dealing with. That definitely needs to be a very free market, much more freer than it is right now. They go hand in hand. I believe that, it should be a part of our diet. We should be using it for textiles. We should be using it for building materials. We should be using it for plastic materials. Anything that you can use hemp for should be used. And that should, cannabis and hemp should be one and the same, in my opinion, as far as the market goes for that. It's an important plant. It should be part of our diet. We have endocannabinoid systems for a reason. What else is there to say?
No, I love it. I love it. But I got to ask one more question. Robert knows something I don't know. He's saying, ask her how she originally got into it, Larry. It's an awesome story. Is there an awesome story I'm missing?
About cannabis and hemp. So yeah, basically just what I was saying about the veteran situation, that I just saw a lot of veterans that came back from my then husband's second deployment. It was a very rough deployment for them.
Where'd they go?
They went to Afghanistan the second time.
Was that 6 months, 9 months, or 15 months?
It was 13 months. So they have to come home 2 months early. It would have been 15.
That's
yeah, 2 months early.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, and they had a really hard time. They had a lot of wounded, a lot of casualties. They came back to not a whole lot of support for their unit, as far as their unit taking care of them after the fact. And then, like I said, there was an involvement with a soldier that was having a lot of issues, and they prescribed him pharmaceutical drugs, and it just didn't work for him, especially when you mix pharmaceutical drugs with alcohol.
Oh, yes.
It's a recipe for disaster, and he ended up committing suicide. He left behind a young wife and a very young child. Lives forever changed.
Yes, and not getting better right now.
Right, and still same thing from, and then I'm talking, this was back in 2011, so we're talking 9 years later, and nothing has gotten better.
And it's still bad. Yes, it's still bad, and it's not getting better. And we're so busy trying to say how much we support our troops, but then we don't support our troops.
Right.
It's just a lot of talk that makes us feel good, and we wave a couple flags back and forth, but then we don't do what we're actually supposed to be doing, which is, if we're going to send these people off into a war zone to get themselves hammered and smashed physically and mentally, you would think when they come back, we would at least give them something to say, sorry about that, let's try to help. Or worse, and you know this, most of these vets don't actually want the help. They want the ability to help themselves. Right. That's what they really want. They want the ability to help themselves, and they actually don't want government help. They want veteran community help. It's what they really want. They want veteran community. They want that community again when they come back. It's one of the reasons why they struggle to transition. It's a tough spot for so many veterans, particularly combat veterans, but even non-combat veterans, even that. So, oh no, that was the wrong story, Amanda. Robert's got all kinds of stories for you. I guess you got great stories. He says no.
Yeah. Oh, the school choice
school
story.
Choice one. See that, Robert? You're messing up. You need to be clear in your communication, my friend. I love it. I think you have a cat.
I do have a cat. I have 4 cats, actually.
There we go. Yes, because one's behind you. Your cat is interested. Your cat is interested.
He likes politics too, I guess.
I love it. I love it. So tell us the school choice story, since that, I guess, is a better story, according to Robert.
So with school choice, so when I started, when I was a young mother and I had children in school, or my son was in school, I started him off in public school. Kindergarten year, he had a really rough year in kindergarten, and then he moved into his first grade year. He was a typical little boy. He just couldn't sit still. He just wanted to be into everything all the time, playing, discovering, and so his
that doesn't work well when everyone tells you sit down and shut up and do what I tell you. It doesn't work well.
Right. And that's the thing with public schooling. It's a very cookie cutter, one size fits all to all students. There's no individuality. And so his first grade year, about halfway through, I got a phone call from his teacher saying, hey, we're having an issue with your son in class. He won't sit still. He's distracting the other students. And I said, well, okay, what seems to be the issue? Why won't he sit still? Is he just not interested in what he's being taught? Is he having a hard time understanding the curriculum, so he's lashing out? Like, what's going on? And they said, oh no, he's actually very bright. He, he's pulling straight A's. He gets his work done before everybody. And so he gets bored because he's waiting on everybody else to finish their work. And so instead of them directing him to something else, they would tell him, oh, just sit in your chair and put your head down, which doesn't work when you're a little excitable 6-year-old.
So you're smart and ahead of the curve. Here's your punishment.
Right. Just sit still and be quiet.
Here's your punishment. How dare you be ahead of the curve? How dare you do that? Get back in line, you. Got it. Yes.
So then she went on to say, have you thought about taking him to the doctor for medication?
Because we can't have smart kids.
And I was very insulted by that, because I thought there's nothing wrong with my son, and I'm not going to put him on medication just to quiet him down and dumb him down for the rest of the class. Like, that's not how you do things. So I pulled him out and I decided to homeschool him, and I homeschooled him. And then his sister in kindergarten the following year homeschooled her, did that for 6 years plus. And it was the best choice I could have made.
So then they went into middle school?
Right, middle school into high school, and I decided
failed miserably, and the world ended because homeschooling is terrible, right?
No,
Yeah,
I was
that
so nervous when I
that
sent
is
them back.
never the answer. That I'm teasing you, obviously, but yes, because I've never heard anything other than, and they did fine in school.
Right. So they actually excelled. I
Mm-hmm.
put them back into public school, and it was quite apparent with about halfway through their first year back into public school that they were ahead of their peers. They were reading at far advanced reading levels above their peers. They were being put in gifted and talented programs because the regular classes were just too easy for them. And so all of my fears of inadequacy and thinking, oh man, I don't know if I did a good enough job homeschooling them went right out the window because
Yep.
they excelled and they're still excelling. And I'm just really proud of them.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, do you have a cool slogan like a build that wall or Medicaid for all or something like that?
Just libertarian for the people. I'm for the people. I will listen to my constituents and do accordingly to what they feel they need in their area. They know much more than I do what's going on locally.
Okay.
I can only keep up so much. I'm only one person, but that's what public servants are supposed to do. They're supposed to listen to their constituents and take into consideration what they want.
So let me ask you, I have people, since you're from Kentucky, asking questions specifically about qualified immunity. Do you have a stance on that either way?
Oh, I definitely feel we need to end qualified immunity. I feel that that's going to start holding our police forces accountable. That's going to take away that idea of, oh, I can do whatever I want to whomever I want and not suffer any consequences. Accountability is the name of the game, and it
So
definitely needs to change.
let me move then to the thing that brought all this up, right? All this stuff
Right.
up. The George Floyd situation, right? When George Floyd was murdered, I mean, just the
Right.
country is just, exploding. Things are happening all over the place, good and bad, right? All over, but people are
Right.
affected by it. It's affecting our community. Do you have a view either way on the George Floyd situation?
Oh, obviously it's terrible, but I feel like we were sitting on a powder keg for a very long time, and it had to happen. Eventually, it was going to happen. It was inevitable. Here in Kentucky, the big thing also is the Breonna Taylor case.
Oh, sure.
I'm just appalled by how that happened, and continue to be appalled every day. I see new things about it. Oh, they fired the officer that shot the shots that killed her, but he's not being taken to court over it.
Mhm.
He's not being held accountable for his actions. I'll take that one step further and say, okay, who wrote the warrant or signed off on the warrant that allowed these officers to bust into her apartment or her house and cause this to happen? They need to be held accountable as well. It needs to be a view much more outside of just who was the officer that shot the shots. There's more people involved than just that one person, and it needs to be looked at across the board, and it needs to be taken care of. People are demanding justice for this young woman, and with reason. It needs to all change. It needs to all change in this country, locally, state level, federally, across the board. Needs to change.
There we go. Okay. So I have another question from someone. You're in District 3, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Wesley says District 3 is a small upper class area. What are her plans to assist the area that have been hit the most by the demise of the coal industry, Middlesboro, Harlan, and Hazard?
Well, I think that we need to provide alternate solutions to coal. I think hemp is one of those. I feel that we need to support the hemp industry hugely. That's going to provide a huge amount of jobs, and Kentucky soil is made to grow hemp. It used to be the #1 cash crop in Kentucky. It can provide, alternative fuel sources that can kind of take over that coal situation. And we need to look for those alternative energy sources outside of, our reliance on coal, fossil fuels.
So you have another reason to get behind cannabis and hemp.
Right.
Yet another reason.
I think hemp and cannabis can save the world.
There we go. I love that. Hemp and cannabis can save the world. There we go. There's your new, that's your hashtag right there. Hemp and cannabis. I love it. You get a lot of people paying attention to you on that one. I like that. So let me then go to the piece before that to George what happened. You mentioned that we were kind of sitting on a powder keg. one of the reasons we were sitting on that powder keg was because, well, 30 million people were sitting at home with nothing to do because they stayed home because of the COVID crisis. Do you have a view either way on how the COVID crisis was handled or what should be done?
I honestly, personally, I feel like it was blown out of proportion too quickly.
Mm-hmm.
I think decisions were made without all of the facts being known, and things were very, we jumped the gun on a lot of things. And then to top it off, we did not support small business at all,
Yes.
particularly here in Kentucky. There are so many small businesses that have now gone under that will never recover, never be able to open. People have lost their livelihoods. And then on top of it, now we are dealing with an unemployment benefit crisis here in Kentucky. I'm reading things of people who are standing in line for 8 hours or more to get answers about their unemployment benefits that they have yet to receive, and they're still leaving with no answers. And that is absolutely ridiculous that this is where we're at. Like, where is this money? Are we bankrupt? Did we not have the money to pay people now? What's going on?
Right.
Like,
no, you're right. If you're going to promise people stuff, you better have an answer, or don't promise them stuff, right?
Right.
One or the other. If you're going to promise them, you got to have an answer.
Right. And then, we've got a governor that closed everything down, has been very, very, dragging his feet to let things open back up, mandate this, mandate that. And yet I turn around and see how he was at a rally with hundreds of people. And there's a huge double standard that just needs to end. I just don't understand why we are so blind to this. So we need to wake up and realize that this needs to end. We need to do better by people. People are suffering and struggling right now, and nobody seems to care.
No, Joe just posted that, you're in a two-way race, you can make impact, and I agree. And guys, remember, if you want to help out Amanda, head over to the Facebook page. It's Billings 4KY Senate 3. Head on over there, reach out to her, Amanda Billings on Facebook. See how you can help out. If you can donate, if you've got cash, as you hear me say, if you've got the money to donate, please do that, particularly if you live in Kentucky. If you want change, if you want people to hear what she has to say, remember, two-way race means people will hear her, right? They'll hear her message. She will automatically get the I hate the incumbent vote by default, plus all people who actually like her on top of it. Not a bad deal, right? So why don't we take some time, if we can, to actually, support her if we can. If you don't have the cash, no worries. She still needs help. She needs people to support her on social media, physically be out there, do a sign wave, not shake signs. You could shake signs too, but sign wave, head out there and put on door hangers, knock on doors, whatever the case may be, Facebook stuff. Please enjoy, if you possibly can, help her out to the best of your ability. So I want to go to the next piece. We talked about this, your two-party race, which is awesome, but how do we make, two-person race. How in the world do we make impact when COVID makes people afraid, right? People are afraid. Are they still going to come out to events? Are they going to be scared? Are they going to be okay? Can you still knock on doors? Does that make sense for you? How do you make impact in this race?
Right. Social media, I think, is the number one way to do it right now. Obviously, people are sitting at home. They're on their phones. They're on their computers. Local radio is another one. People are still listening to the radio. I personally hope that I'm going to be able to go around and at the very least hang door hangers on people's doors. If I can't talk to them, then that's okay. We've got to start thinking a little bit differently, because we do have to change our interactions a little bit because of this. And just word of mouth. It's just like any kind of marketing. Word of mouth is probably the number one way to get there. So I'm just really hoping that I can find that support base and that they're willing to help me get the word out, and, just allow people to realize that they do have another choice, and don't be afraid of that alternative choice just because it's not the normal choice of, Democrat or Republican.
Yeah, there is a fear issue. I think you're totally right. People are worried. Oh, I'm scared of my guy, or I'm scared of the other guy, or whatever. So they're going to, vote the opposite just out of fear. They're going to be voting against something instead of voting for something. It's a whole different way of voting. Absolutely. So let me ask you, look, I know you want to win. I hope you win. What happens if you don't? Do you have like a secondary or, consolation prize? I was very lucky when I ran in New York. If I lose, I still get ballot access. So I had for my state. So I had a very simple and very easy consolation prize. A lot of the people don't have that. How about you?
We're very fortunate here in Kentucky that we do have ballot access. But my neighbors in Tennessee, which is literally 2 minutes up the road from me, do not. So they have a much bigger fight on their hands. And I'm here for Kentucky, but I also just hope to bring awareness to the Libertarian Party across the board for this area that this is something we need to look at. Why do we not have access to the ballot just like everybody else? And my consolation prize is just that we bring awareness to this cause and that we do show people that there is another option and that, they don't have to be afraid to vote outside of party lines, the old party lines, I will say. That's my consolation prize.
Do you have a way of measuring that? Like, do you think it's a percentage of vote or a percentage of people who get out to vote? Or is it the amount of times you're on TV or on the radio? Or is it the difference between what the last person got in you or the number of people who become Libertarians in Kentucky? Is there a way that you've thought that you could measure that?
I'm hoping that I will see an increase in registered Libertarian voters. I think at the very, very least, if we can get people to register to vote Libertarian, that would be a big deal. And then, of course, to piggyback on top of that, if we can get people to join the Libertarian Party of Kentucky or Libertarian Party of Tennessee, I think that would help. We just need to start looking at increasing party registration.
I love that. So that's a great way of measuring. I love that idea. Wesley's asking some more questions. I think he's one of yours. He says, recently Louisville has been experiencing a tech renaissance, especially in the telehealth category. Does she have any plans to foster the growth in the tech in her area? Cannabis can't cure everything. I'm not sure, Wesley. It just might be able to. I mean, discuss the hashtag "It saves the world," so you might be wrong on that one. But let's see. Any issues with tech in your area?
Not that I'm aware of. I'm sure they probably do exist. It's not something that I've really focused on, but I'm now very curious to kind of look into that. I know Baptist Health, based out of Madisonville, is very pro like teleconferencing your doctor if you have an issue. So it's definitely there. The ability is there. I don't know if everybody's aware of that ability. So maybe that's something that we just need to bring more awareness to, especially with this COVID thing going on. We obviously need to give everybody as many options as possible. And I think that's what part of the Libertarian platform is just giving people choices on everything across the board. Give them more choices to just do things the way they want to do them.
So in this tech issue, if you can give the cat a hug, I don't mind. Yes. If in this case, if I'm hearing you right, when it comes to tech, you're saying your campaign here is to basically get people to have more awareness of the choices they have, and that's how we begin to grow the tech industry. Am I hearing that right?
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. The telehealth is a big deal, particularly with the COVID. Oh my God, it's a big deal, and I think people are doing it. And by the way, Joe does believe cannabis cures all. So Wesley. You may be wrong on that one. I'm just saying. So I love it. Anything you want to bring up before we kind of wrap up, Amanda? Anything you want to talk about or bring up?
No, I just feel that, everybody needs to take a deeper dive into libertarianism, go to the lp.org website and check out the platform. Go to Jo Jorgensen's website, joj2020.com. Check out her platform. It matches very closely with the Libertarian platform, almost word for word. And let's just start looking at our other options this election season and, look at ways that we can be better and do better for everybody.
I love it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Amanda, thank you for coming and giving us your time and energy on this. I love it. Your stories were great. Robert was right. They were good stories. So thank you for sharing those. I hope you do well. Good luck. I hope we'll be talking very soon.
Thank you so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
All righty.